What's up, y'all? What is up? What is up? What is up, you guys? Happy Sunday to you. Happy Sunday, happy Sunday, happy Sunday. I don't know about you guys, but today, this weekend has been one of those weekends where it literally feels like it has gone by super duper fast. It seems like it was just Friday, and now we are here at Sunday preparing to start the second week of June. As you guys can see, I am doing my morning walk. These mornings have been truly very peaceful. I'm not sure if I've ever lived at a complex that was this peaceful, literally all day long. It's one of those complexes where it really doesn't matter what time of the day it is, even when the kids were in school. It's just been one of those super quiet places to live, which I am so very grateful for. Our declaration on this morning is going to be release the fear. Now, I know what the title of this broadcast says. We're going to be talking about the fact that a lot of times as we're waiting on God, many of us experience so many different triggers. And all a trigger is honestly, in so many words, is fear. And when a person is triggered, even outside of the confines of their relationship with God, chemically our bodies produce a response to it that affects the way that we act. It affects what we do. And so hence the declaration on this morning. So I would have to say that this week, or this past week period, has been one of the most triggering weeks that I have ever had to deal with while waiting on God to do something. I have been beyond triggered. I'm just gonna be totally transparent. I have been very much so beyond triggered, if that makes sense. And so I had a moment last night. I went to bed, and yesterday was a triggering day in itself, but it was one of those days where I think even in the mix of being triggered, you have to still learn to choose faith. I had a moment though yesterday, and I'll start here just to give you guys the prefix of where this revelation is coming from. But I started to think about my situation with, it being that time of month where rent is due. And so in the back of my mind, I started to think about, well, maybe I could just sell my sofas. Y'all don't laugh. Maybe I could just sell my sofas, God, make the money, pay my rent, and let that be it. Well, then the issue arose. I kid y'all not. I made up a little post on Facebook Marketplace and everything. But the Lord began to show me how, even if you do that, it's still going to be a catch-22. Because what are you going to have in your living room when you sell these sofas? You're still going to have to pay off the sofas. And so it was just literally a kind of big debacle, if that makes sense. And so nevertheless, I deleted the Facebook post because I was getting a lot of spam messages. And at that moment, the Lord began to start dealing with me about how fear made me do it. And I believe we all have those fear made me do it moments where we're triggered and we respond out of fear to a circumstance or to something that we're going through. But I had one of those fear made me do it kind of moments. And in that moment of God showing me and showing me the fear, you know, and a lot of times in essence, when we are operating out of fear, it literally will make us, to a certain degree, try to quote unquote, help God out. And the truth of the matter is that in moments where we do that, it never ever works. Whatever it is that we're trying to do, it never ever works. And a lot of times we get back to square one. And square one being having to truly just wait on God and sit and be still. And so after that happened, the day kind of just flowed. I was able to get what I needed, the essentials. I was able to get a snack, able to get laundry detergent. And so I went to bed. I went to bed after I ate a little bit, and I'm just going to be totally transparent. I was awakened at around 3:30 this morning, and it was because I had a dream. Promise y'all I'm going somewhere. And in the dream, you know, something happened that triggered me. Well, I'll say this. In the dream, there was a loss that triggered me to feel how I felt with my dog Bella. And I say that because prior to me moving here, and I'm sure you guys can remember me saying before I moved that I really didn't want to move to a new, I really didn't want to embrace the new thing God was doing, because I've always associated new beginnings with having to take some type of hit. And so a lot of times I think many people feel that way. If you've walked with God long enough, you've just kind of, you know, understood that there are some moments in life where as we're shifting certain seasons, it requires a sacrifice oftentimes comes before the new beginning. And so in this dream, it was a triggering moment. What I was going to say was, before I actually moved here, maybe about a month or so before I moved here, I'd had a dream, maybe a few weeks, maybe a month. I'm not sure, you guys. Don't quote me on the time frame. But in the dream, before I moved here, I'd had a dream of me having to put her down. All I saw in the dream was me walking out of, you know, her on the table, me having to walk out of the vet crying. That's all I saw in the dream. But I didn't think anything of it because things seemed fine. I'm going to be totally transparent. But it did alarm me. But I thought that maybe it's just the enemy trying to instill fear. Fast forward, you know, to May 16th of this year, that dream played out like in totality. And so I ended up having a similar dream, but not the same. It was a similar dream, and it triggered me this morning into the point where I woke up feeling so triggered, feeling so much fear. I mean, it bothered me to the point where I was even crying a little bit this morning. And I found myself in dealing with that trigger, telling God, I don't want, well, first of all, begging God, God, please don't let that happen. I can't deal with that. I need a break. I need a break. But it translated into me telling God, listen, I don't want nothing new if it means I'm going to have to lose something. I'm going to say that again. I literally told God, I don't want nothing new if it means I have to lose something. And I think many people can relate to that, because a lot of us, when we are going through, what's up, Jocelyn? A lot of us, when we're going through our processes, we already feel like so much is already being taken from us, or we already feel like we're being stripped down to like the bare minimum. And so in this season of life, like since Bella's passing, you know, I've just really been feeling, even before then, feeling like, Lord, I'm already being stripped down to barely nothing. And so it's like no one wants to take one last hit. I don't care what nobody say. I don't know nobody that wants to take a hit, period. And so I'm telling God this morning, when I woke up and had that dream that triggered me, it brought me to a flashback moment of what he had showed me about Bella. And I said, Lord, if it means I'm going to have to lose something again, I don't want that. I don't want it. I don't want nothing new. If it means I got to take a hit, don't want it. Don't want it. And so I eventually went back to sleep, cried my little eyes out, and I went back to sleep because it was a trauma response. And I woke up this morning and I was spending a little bit of time with God about it. And you want to know what the Lord told me? He said, release the fear. Release the fear so that what that simply means is release the fear so that you can move forward in life. Release that fear. I pray that I'm making sense. Release the fear so that you can continue to matriculate in life. Release it. And I know it's one of those things that it is, easier said than done, because truthfully speaking, some fears and some triggers, some traumas are so deeply embedded that it feels impossible to get to a point where you cannot let a certain thing trigger you or traumatize you anymore. I pray that I'm making sense. I'm going to say it again. There are just some fears that are easy to get over. It's easy to say, you know what, God, I'm going to trust you. But then there are some fears that you deal with from things that really traumatized you, like you remember what it felt like to go through a certain thing, where they are so deeply embedded that it almost feels beyond impossible to not let those things trigger you anymore. And I believe in the process, when we're waiting on God, a lot of times what makes the waiting process so very hard to deal with is the fact that while we wait on God, our triggers and our fears oftentimes emerge. Give me a one if you understand where I'm coming from. I'm going to say that again. A lot of times what makes waiting hard, it's not the fact that we have to wait on God that makes it hard. The thing that makes waiting hard is that while we wait, our fears tend to emerge. They tend to come out of hiding. The things that trigger us begin to come out of hiding. While we wait, a lot of times we remember how certain things that we've gone through didn't play out to our benefit. A lot of times while we're waiting, we remember how, when X, Y, and Z happened, we start comparing the right now to what we've gone through. And so a lot of times while we're waiting on God, we tend to put in our mind, the reminder of what it felt like the last time we went through something that felt similar or that was similar. Excuse me. And so a lot of times while we're waiting, those triggers, they come out of hiding. And that is where the anxiety stems from. It's where the rebellion stems from for many people. It's where, those moments of us trying to help God out, it's where it all stems from, if that makes any sense. And so this morning, as God was kind of giving me that understanding and that revelation, what he told me was, you got to release this fear. If you're going to be able to move forward, you're literally going to have to release that fear. And sometimes, y'all, releasing fears and releasing things that triggered you, it hurts. It hurts. Because in the back of your mind, you wonder, if I let this go, am I going to be blindsided, God? Am I going to have to go back through something, that I almost didn't make it out of? And so that's kind of been where my mindset has been on this morning. Just trying not to be in fear, trying my best to acknowledge what my triggers are. And I think that is point one in getting to a place where you can really release your triggers, because you can't release something that you won't acknowledge. I'm going to say that again. You can't release something that you won't acknowledge. Hold on one second, y'all. Okay, there we go. You cannot release a trigger that you will not acknowledge. And so key number one in dealing with triggers while you wait on God is acknowledge it. Acknowledge where your fear is coming from. Feeling triggered, acknowledge it. Because it's like, how can God help us with something too that we won't even acknowledge? And I think many people are afraid of acknowledging their fears, afraid of acknowledging the things that trigger them. Because in the back of our mind, we feel like, if I acknowledge this, God, it's going to come true. So a lot of times what we do in life is we act like we ain't triggered. We act like we don't have certain fears. In essence, what we'll do is we'll fake it till we make it. And I think that for me, that was one of the things that I have been doing. And that's just me. That dream thing, God knows I don't like. I've never been a dreamer. I don't like to dream, but I do know that when I'm able to remember dreams, it's God telling me something. And so number one, in dealing with triggers while you wait on God, acknowledge that they are there. Acknowledge what they are. The second thing that I did after I acknowledged it, I had to ask God for godness. Because the truth of the matter is that if we knew how to deal with those fears and triggers, it would have been handled by now. And I think a lot of times we ignore those triggers and those fears because we don't know how to get over them. We don't know how to not be affected by some of the things that have traumatized us in life. And so number one begins with acknowledgement. It's okay to tell God, Lord, I'm scared. Lord, this situation is triggering me. Lord, this situation is doing whatever the case may be. And so number two is ask him for guidance. God, how do I get to a place where this no longer triggers me? Where, this no longer affects my judgment, my perception, my obedience, or my faith. And so those were the first two things that I did on this morning, was the acknowledgement part, asking God for guidance. And it's like a part of God's guidance is, and number three is just be receptive to how God guides you. A lot of times, God's ways, what we fail to realize is that God's ways are not our ways. He's not going to move. He moves in a way that always confounds the wise. So with that or a certain expectation of how we feel God should do something, but truth be told, a lot of times the way that God moves, it seems foreign. A lot of times when God tells you to do something, or as he guides you, a lot of times it feels like you're doing the wrong thing. I pray that I'm making sense. It'll feel like you are doing the wrong thing. And I think that this is like one of the first places, if you're not surrendered, where rebellion will start to set in. Because, that's just how the world has taught us all to be. When you don't understand something, stick to what you know. And so that's why number three is be receptive to however God tells you, you need to move in a way to release that fear. So that is it, man. And, besides that, you have to apply the strategy God gives you. And honestly, a lot of times it's not something that's easy. A lot of times it is something that is easier said than done, but we have to learn to give ourselves grace and understand that those triggers, the things, the fears that are hard for us to release, they didn't happen to us overnight. I'm going to say that again. The triggers and the fears that are deeply embedded, let me say that. A lot of times with these triggers and fears, they ain't something that happened overnight. They are absolutely not. It happened over the course of months, over the course of years. And so I say that to say with those things, sometimes it takes time, effort, and consistency with getting to a place where those things no longer bother you or no longer concern you or affect you. And so that is this morning's broadcast, in a sense. Today is the 5th of June. It is the very last day for me to get this rent paid without a late fee. Honestly, it's been one of those things where the Lord really hasn't said much to me about it. I do know that this morning I do need to get dog food for my dogs. And I need to put gas in my car because I am all the way on E at the moment. And so whatever is sown is going to be going towards, of course, rent. It's going to be going towards dog food and gas. I'm not really concerned about, excuse me guys, anything else right now. But the total for rent of what I am in need of is $1,418. And at this point, it's one of those things where all I can do is trust that God will move, and that the funds will come. Don't care how they come. And so it's one of those things where I just have to trust that God can do it. It's not a comfortable thing to do. I will say that. It has definitely not been the most comfortable thing, waiting on God for what I feel is such a large amount. I have dealt with some discouragement while waiting. I have even dealt with some regrets while waiting. Hold on one more time, y'all. I have dealt with some regrets, feeling like, Lord, if I would have just stayed at the old place, I would have I would have had still the money from the rental assistance, and it wouldn't have been this delay. I've had those thoughts, like we all do. To a certain degree, it kind of feels like God has led me, like me following God led me into a storm that I was trying to avoid. I have had some fears about it. I really and truly have. I'm just going to be totally transparent. It has definitely not been easy. It's been hard. And I think it's been even harder because these last 2 weeks have been just the roughest. Last 3 weeks have just been tumultuous. Again, right now, where we are is 14:18. I think that is where the Lord wants my focus to be. If you know that you're in a position to sow seed, whether you're sowing 100, whether you're sowing 10, whether God's, hey, Natasha, you just let God lead you. And so today is just about doing what I can do, trusting God with the rest, doing my best to stay in faith and not let the fear of not having what I need consume me. But that is the goal. Again, I do need gas and I do need dog food. Those are the first things that are right now needs. I'm not really concerned about food for myself. I know my dog's food, the small bags cost around $15 with taxes and stuff. And anything else is gonna literally go towards gas. But that is where I am right now. In moments like this where you're waiting and there's literally nothing that you can do, all you can do is what you can do. And so that's kind of been where my mindset has been. But there has been uncertainty. There has been me having to deal with different triggers, not really wanting to wait on God, but knowing that there's literally nothing that I can do to get, to get what I need. And so in moments like that, you have to try to wait as peacefully and as patiently as you can. And, while you wait, one thing that helps me out is I remember how God has taken care of me in the past. I remember, how he's come through in the past. And so just like back then, I had to follow the strategy and continue to obey God, because the thing about it is we never ever really know when, God is going to come through. We never ever really know how close we are to whatever it is that we're believing God for. And so that's what today is about: being obedient, staying the course, and just trusting that my need is going to get met right on time. But right now, my right now need is dog food and gas. That is literally it for this morning. As far as rent is concerned, again, that amount is $1,418. And so that is it. Today is the 5th day. Again, it's the last day to pay it without I think it's $100 late fee. I'm not sure, y'all. But that's it, y'all. You feel led to sow, those links are there, y'all. PayPal, CashApp. Sow what God leads you to sow. You sow what's on your heart to sow. But that's it. I'm about to end my morning walk and start this day. And I will be back on as God leads me to. As I get the funds in, you guys know, I'm going to let you guys know that we've got them in. This morning's goal is to be able to get that dog food for sure. And if it be God's will, to be able to put some from point A to this morning. If you're just not tuning in, to get the full understanding of what the Lord was speaking on today. If you need prayer for anything, you guys know the email address is in the description of the video. Excuse me, the ways to sow are there as well. And so until next time, y'all, peace.